Well, GTA 6 has been delayed again. Everybody say it with me now.
I am shocked. Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
Hello, my gaming brothers and sisters, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am Jonathan, and I appreciate you tuning in for another episode of Quick Bird Gaming News, where we recap all the news, the important stories in the gaming world for the last week. This video is going to cover the news from 2 to 8 November, and as always, the stories are all listed down below with a timestamp, so feel free to look down in the description box and jump to a story that interests you. We need to talk about a couple of Marvel Comics games that one of which has been delayed and the other which is doubling down on their release date. We are going to talk about Square Enix, who seems like they're on the verge of abandoning their Western studios, and I'll tell you why I think that's a good thing. And Take-Two admitting that the Borderlands 4 launch was kind of soft in their words. But before we get to all that, we got to look over to Rockstar and see what is going on with Grand Theft Auto 6. Okay, I'm going to start off with this PC Games In article, which was published on Thursday, November 8th. It finally felt like GTA 6 was in reach, but it just got delayed again, and now it's more than a year away. Take-Two reveals that GTA 6 has been delayed again so Rockstar can, quote, finish the game with the level of polish you have come to expect. And it says that now a new date, the game has been delayed again. A new date has been set for Thursday, November 19th of 2026. So essentially a year from the making of this video. And they said, okay, this is the second major delay the game has faced, initially billed to launch in 2025. I don't remember the exact date, but if I recall, it was this fall. So it would have been released around the time of this video. Rockstar and Take-Two committed its first delay with the release of the second trailer. That was this last summer when they pushed it to May of 2026. And now it's been delayed once again. And there's an official statement that says, we're sorry, this is what we want to finish the game, and blah, 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 blah. Take-Two boss Strauss Zelnick has also commented on the delay ahead of the company's quarterly earnings call today. I bet he did, as we'll get to in a minute, because this was not going to look good. And then he says, we set a date, we really believe in it, yammer, yammer, yammer. Okay, that's just all more corporate gobbledygook about how we want to deliver the best game, and you know the drill. So that's what is happening now. So it has officially been pushed back another 6 months. Be another 6 months before we see it. Now, we flip over to this Games Rant article, also from Thursday, and it says, Take-Two stock takes a big hit after the GTA 6 announcement. And they said Take-Two Interactive stock took a nosedive during after-hours trading, resulting in a loss of nearly 10% for the company. And while it climbed back up, it is still down. And we can actually look at the stock ticker, and this is as of the close on Friday. You can see it's down, still roughly, according right here, about 10% overall from its peak and over the last week of trading. So that's the impact of this game. It is so big that it's actually dragging down its parent company's stock. And you think about the other games that Take-Two is involved with. Think about games like the Borderlands franchise with Gearbox underneath Take-Two, and I think BioShock. The BioShock games and Civilization, major franchises with big releases. Yet Rockstar's the Rockstar name and the Grand Theft Auto IP are so massive that this delay hit their stock price. Now, do I think this is going to be a long-term effect to their stock? Do I think that this delay is going to affect the hype or the final sales figures for GTA 6? Not in the slightest. This is a game we're talking about that is probably, if not the most anticipated games release in history, it is the most anticipated game currently we're waiting for, we collective as gamers. I think this game selling 40 million copies in its first month is highly feasible given the success of GTA 5. So I don't think this is going to form any kind of long-term impact on the company, negative impact, I should say, or on Rockstar and GTA 6's ultimate success. Now, having said that, there is one other factor at play, and this story has been kind of developing over the last week, and I'm covering it just because it ties into this. This Video Games Chronicle article, also from Thursday, Rockstar claims it fired dozens of workers last week for leaking company secrets, not trying to unionize, with one union accusing it of union busting. So Rockstar Games has claimed its decision to fire dozens of employees was due to their alleged leaking of company secrets, not their attempts to unionize. The Independent Workers Union of Great Britain claimed Rockstar had fired them as they tried to form a union. Now, as you read down the article, essentially what they're saying is that Rockstar is saying that these individuals were in channels with non-Rockstar employees and sharing information, leaking sensitive information. The union reps claimed that they were in a union channel talking about how they could unionize. I'm not taking a position on whether or not the unionizing was a good thing or not. It's just interesting that this happens, this story's been developing right about the time the delay is announced again. Is this a factor in the delay? Very well could be. There's a little strife in the ranks at Rockstar. Also seems like a distinct possibility. Now, I don't know that we're going to get the ground truth on this story, whether there were leaks, whether they were leaking code or story details or who knows what else from the game, or it was strictly a union issue. I suspect, just based on history, it was probably somewhere in between. So, but the upshot of all this is we are going to have to wait a little bit longer for Grand Theft Auto 6. This doesn't really affect me much. I've said before, I'm strictly a PC player. I don't play on console. So I think I really don't expect Grand Theft Auto 6 to be available on PC for at least 6 to 8 months after its console release, probably more than a year before it's ported over. And then we're going to go through the port hell of all the optimization problems, most likely. I just, maybe they'll get it right the first time. But again, recent history doesn't instill me with any confidence. So I'm kind of an outsider watching this, but I know it's important to a lot of people. I know a lot of people are going to be disappointed by this news. It's why I wanted to cover it. And I think it's an important story. So I guess if you were looking forward to GTA 6, we were within about 6 months of it. Now it's a full year again, so you'll have to get your fix somewhere else. I guess you could go back and play the definitive editions a little bit.
I ain't rolling with you no more, man, till you off that water, homie. It mess with your mind.
Whatever you say, fool. You don't know what's going on.
No, okay, don't do that. log in some more time in GTA 5 if you want, if you want to stay in the franchise. But in any event, we are now looking at about a year before number 6 is out. Okay, next up, I want to talk about a couple of Marvel games. I think I said in the intro, one of which has doubled down on their release window, and that would be this one in this article that was published on Insider Gaming on Friday, the 7th of November. Insomniac game doubles down on fall 2026 release date for Wolverine. With a busy late 2026, made busier by the fact that GTA just got moved there, Insomniac confirms that Marvel's Wolverine will still release in fall of 2026. And we can come right down here to the actual tweet from Insomniac that says, "Don't miss a shred of information. Wish list Marvel's Wolverine coming in fall of 2026." Now, fall is a kind of ambiguous term. They could be thinking August, which would still be several months ahead of Grand Theft Auto 6, leaving it plenty of time for people to play it and buy it and exhaust it before that comes out. With a game like GTA 6, we have seen studios trying to avoid the release window. Nobody's going to want to release right on top of it or right after it, except for the case of Devolver Digital, which seems to be interestingly pushing a game that they plan to release at the same time. That's neither here nor there. So this game is coming out at the same time, and they said, no, we're not going to change our plans. So it's very interesting to see what's going to happen. The trailer for this looked like it's going to be a much more mature and gritty version of a Marvel game compared to Insomniac's other games, Spider-Man 1 and 2. So we will see what happens. They're pressing forward, and that's confidence is cool. I'll also move over to this Video Game Chronicle article from Thursday, the 6th of November. Marvel 1943, The Rise of Hydra has received another delay beyond 2026, and it no longer has a release window. Now, this game, as we scroll down here, it says back in May, the game, which was previously set to release this year, was officially delayed to early 2026. Now, in the statement posted on its official X account, publisher guidance says the game has been delayed further to an unconfirmed release window. Same as with Rockstar, they make the statement, we want to deliver an unforgettable game. Okay, and we made the decision to shift our release. And here is the actual tweet, the actual X posting. And if you can't read that, they say, to fully realize our vision for Marvel 1943, The Rise of Hydra, we've made the decision to shift our release window beyond early 2026. They don't provide a further release window. So now we're probably talking 9 to 12 months minimum before we see this. And, sometimes delays are good for games. Sometimes they're a sign of problems. And, you often don't know without further information. I don't know a whole lot about this game. I do know that modern Marvel games, in the modern era, say the last 5 to 7 years, have a very checkered past. You've had some successes like the Insomniac Spider-Man games. I don't think the second one sold as well as the first, but still sold quite a few copies. You have Marvel Rivals, which as a team shooter was a big success for NetEase. On the other hand, you have had games like the Black Panther game, that was canceled before it ever got anywhere. You had Marvel Avengers as a live service product, which utterly failed and isn't even available for purchase on storefronts anymore. You had games like Guardians of the Galaxy and Midnight Suns, which, while I don't think they were total failures, I think they underperformed and didn't sell as well as the publishers hoped for them. And then you've got a couple of games out there like Iron Man and Blade, which I haven't heard a whole lot about. I don't know if they're in development hell or if they're proceeding. We just don't have a lot of information on them. So Marvel video games kind of have that hit or miss quality to them. And we're just going to have to see what happens with this one. It could be good, could be bad. It could end up canceled. There's just no way to know yet. I do miss the days of Marvel Ultimate Alliance, though. And then we have this article over at Eurogamer, which was also published on Friday, the 7th of November. Arc Raiders may have already sold, whatever, 2.5 million copies according to industry analysts. And the article says that Arc Raiders might be over 2.5 million copies according to data from Alina Analytics. And Alina Analytics, if you don't know, is a video game data and market analysis company. They are kind of an educated best guess for sales when developers and publishers aren't releasing their sales numbers. They analyze it and kind of take guesses at it. Sometimes their numbers are good, sometimes they're not, but they are, better than just kind of randomly guessing in the void. I don't have any problem believing this, if for no other reason. When I go and look at the Steam database page, and here over at Arc Raiders, you're looking at it as of right now on Saturday night on the 8th of November. You can see that they're hitting 400,000 players right now as a high peak. Their all-time peak they just hit. They're over a week since release, and as I covered last week, they're a lot of people are really interested in this game, and you can see looking at the chart, they're maintaining their numbers. They haven't dropped off at all. In fact, they've gained this weekend compared to their launch weekend. So when you have 400,000 players concurrently online just on Steam alone, I have no problem believing they're hitting 2.5 million sales. And I think this is great. If you'll allow me onto my soapbox yet again, I find that these kind of success stories are really awesome. I think this is great for Arc Raiders and Embark, even though it's not my extraction shooters. PvPing is not my type of game. I'm happy for them. Because, why? Because they are a smaller company, AA this time, as opposed to, an actual indie, that is giving players something they want, clearly. Their ratings, they're sitting around an 88 to 90% positive rating score on Steam, which means, 8 to 9 players out of 10 who play the game say it's worth playing. And that's pretty good. They're giving players something they want. They're not doing it at a premium price. I don't remember if the game is priced at $40 or $50, but it's not priced at $70, and players are clearly responding. Every time I see something like this, or Expedition 33, or if you drop down to the indie level, You see games just in the last 6 months like Megabonk and Peak and Are We There Yet? Yeah, and Escape from Duck Off. These games that are made on a shoestring budget by a small team and they sell 1 million plus copies. That warms my cold, dead heart a lot because I love to see the players getting a great game that they really enjoy for a good value. And it really makes me question how much longer the AAA studio is going to exist in its current form before it just collapses under the weight of its own incompetence. I guess we'll see. Anyway, enough of my rant. Let's get back to the news. Okay, next up we have this article from Games Radar. It was published on Thursday, the 6th of November. Borderlands 4's launch was a bit softer than we would have liked, partly because of PC performance issues, Take-Two CEO says, but we're immensely proud of Gearbox anyway. Now this article is a real exercise in why you have to parse what the media, any media, but in our case, the games media, why you really have to parse what they say and look for what's not being said. Now, we'll scroll this down here and see what's being said here. Take-Two Interactive CEO Strauss Zelnick, yeah, this guy again, says Borderlands 4 didn't achieve the launch numbers the company was hoping for, partially due to PC issues, but it's still proud of Gearbox for its accomplishments nonetheless. While we experienced challenges with optimization of performance on PC, this is more than challenges, Gearbox has been addressing these issues and releasing updates, and so on and so forth. They're extremely proud of Take-Two, is extremely proud of Gearbox and looking forward to robust post-launch content. I'll try that 3 times real fast. Post-launch content offerings that will support the game in the months ahead. Okay, and then it continues on and about why it was a bit soft. Now, then this article says, Borderlands 4 hasn't exactly been a commercial disappointment, setting multiple US records for Gearbox as the fastest-selling game in the series, the first to debut as the best-selling game of its month, and becoming the 3rd bestseller of 2025, but I suppose Take-Two was hoping for a little more success out of the gate. Now think about what's being said there. Setting multiple US records for Gearbox as the fastest-selling game in the series. Okay, that's not, even if it's the fastest-selling game in the series, that's not quantitative. If my first game I release sells 1 game in the first week, and the second one sells 2, and the third one sells 10, the third one was still the best selling game, but that doesn't make it a success. The first to debut is the best-selling game of its month, same argument, and becoming the 3rd bestseller of 2025, also the same argument. Now, there are some serious problems with this game. And then, by the way, don't anybody take this as me crapping on people who enjoy it or are having fun with it. It's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about the way this is being spun by Take-Two, by Gearbox, and by this article. I'm just going to clip over to this Forbes article from October 15th. Borderlands 4 is on sale after a month as it trails Borderlands 3. They put this game on sale for 20% a month after it released, 5 weeks or so after it released. That is not a sign of confidence in your product or that it's performing well. It says, okay, as of this week, Borderlands 4 is on sale on Steam in many regions for 20% off. This would seem to reinforce to some degree the idea that Borderlands 4 is underperforming Borderlands 3. We had data before this that said Borderlands 3 sold 5 million copies in 5 days. This was while being an Epic Game Store PC exclusive. Now, if you don't understand that, put this in perspective. I would say about 85% of the PC games digital storefront market is on Steam. It is by far the biggest seller. There's no arguing it. Borderlands 3 was only on Epic at launch and still sold 5 million copies in 5 days. Borderlands 4 was on Steam right from the beginning. It had 2.5 million players across all platforms, including Steam in its first week. Players, not sales. That includes people playing on Game Pass. That is not a number. Anytime a developer or a news article wants to tell you players, always be skeptical of that because they're not talking about sales. And here's the real kicker. The budget for Borderlands 4 is more than double that of Borderlands 3, according to Randy Pitchford himself. This was, back when he was talking about the game maybe $80, and it ended up being $70. He said Borderlands 4 has more than twice the development budget than 3, more than twice. This may put it around $300 million, if so. Now, when you take that into account, and you come back to this Games Radar article, and they say it was a bit softer than we would have liked. Yeah, because it sold less than half in greater amount of time than the last game in the franchise, which was pretty universally panned as not being as good as Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2 is widely loved. I love Borderlands 2 myself. I haven't played 3, but I thought 2 was better than 1. It took everything 1 did right, amped it up, and added some better systems, and just in general maintained the humor, maintained the style, and the fact that you had an absolutely kick-ass antagonist in Handsome Jack that I don't think has ever been repeated in the Borderlands franchise since then. So you had the fact that it didn't sell as well as the previous one in a greater time span, and the fact that it cost twice as much. Now, Borderlands 4 may have a long sales tail stretching out into the distance as it continues, but I don't know about that. I will flip over to where it is on Steam right now, and if you can't read that, in the last 30 days, 49% of the reviews are positive, and when you scroll down and look, they're all related to performance. People agree the game itself, if you can play it, plays well. I think they say the story, in general, people say the story is better than the third one. Overall, it's a better product than the third one, but people are having so many problems on PC. And I know some people aren't, and that's great. I more power to you. I'm glad it worked for you. It's just not working for everybody, and it's not working for enough people that people are upset. This 49% is actually worse than the overall. The overall is 63% have a positive. 63% of reviews overall have a positive rating, but in the last 30 days, it's 49. So it's done worse in the second month than it did in the first month since released. And it doesn't seem to be improving. And I mean, at some point, you're just not going to get any more sales if you can't improve the product. Again, I like Borderlands, but this is just not their way forward, which is why when you look back to the original article, Strauss Zelnick, the head of Take-Two, said it was a bit softer than we would have liked. You read between the lines and all their fancy things about all the records it set, it doesn't matter, because they're sitting there looking at this going, we may not have a profitable product on our hand. And that's bad news for Gearbox, for Randy Pitchford, for players, and pretty much everybody who likes this franchise. All right, now I want to talk about Square Enix and what the hell's going on over there. I'll start with this IGN article from Thursday, the 6th of November. Square Enix undergoes mass layoff as it reorganizes to consolidate development in Japan. Over 100 workers in the UK and an unknown number in the US are expected to be impacted. Okay, it says they're undergoing mass layoffs, basically because they're trying to pull everything back into Japan. And this article talks about how they unknown number of U.S. jobs, maybe up to 137 in the U.K., and it talks about the shutdowns. As part of this, Square Enix has already sold Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal, and a number of associated IPs to Embracer Group, and it laid off workers across Western operations in 2024. This leaves Square Enix with Life is Strange, Outriders, and Just Cause franchises currently managed by Western Studios, as well as the publishing of Power Wash Simulator. And they talk about how they've confirmed the layoffs and everything, and so on and so forth. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I think this is the route they need to go down. When they made those sell-offs to Embracer, Square Enix lost Tomb Raider, they lost Deus Ex, they lost Thief, and Legacy of Kain were probably the 4 biggest IPs, all of which were ripe for good new games that would have brought them a lot of revenue if they managed it properly. Well-known and respected IPs, but they've shed those, and now they're left with these 3. I mean, Life is Strange and Outriders are not going to be major money makers, and Just Cause could be, but I think they would be better off just getting rid of that, pulling back, and going back to doing Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts and Dragon Quest and Octopath Traveler and the other things that are coming out of their Japanese studios that are going to work. Those are the games that are really playing to their strength, and they could just consolidate and pull in. So on the surface, I think this is a great idea. Do I think Square Enix is going to do the right thing? No, just because of their history. For one, they have this asinine obsession with NFT games, and to the point they even tried, what was the name of it? Symbiogenesis, I think was it. That the NFT game they put out, which fortunately I looked over here, Symbiogenesis on CCN back in March, they announced that it was shutting down in July. So this game collapsed. NFT game collapsed. Thank God. We don't need that crap in our industry. And then you got this Insider Gaming article from this week, from Thursday. Square Enix wants AI to handle 70% of the QA within 2 years. So you got a company that has been hemorrhaging IPs over the last decade. They've been laying off people the last couple of years. They insist on trying to run NFT games. They insist on trying to use AI. I think that if they were not generating revenue, consistent revenue, although I know it's not their biggest source, but consistent revenue of Final Fantasy XIV, the MMO, I wonder if they might not have collapsed already. So I think they're going down the right direction, but I question whether or not they're going to keep going and kind of right this sinking ship, because at the moment they're struggling. That would be a shame, because I love Final Fantasy, and I would like to see it continue to keep going. I guess to be determined how things shake out here. Okay, I'm just going to cover these last couple of stories real quick. First is this Game Rant article from Friday, 7th of November. Texas is suing Roblox, and basically they're saying for misleading parents about the dangers of its digital ecosystem. The Texas AG office claiming the company placed pedophiles and profits ahead of the safety of Roblox's youngest viewers. Whoops, did not mean to sit that. I don't think this issue is really going to go away anytime soon. Roblox, as far as I know, they've implemented some changes to the way they do business, but I think there's still a huge problem on there. There's the problem of how they've handled these issues in the past. There is a problem with how they have handled people who have worked with law enforcement to remove predators from their platform. And I just don't see this going away. According to this article, Texas is joining. Kentucky, Louisiana, and Florida has subpoenaed information about this. The game has been banned in other countries. I just think this is an FAFO situation. They just didn't do anything. And, when they target this for kids and it's rife with predators, eventually you're going to pay the piper. You're going to, the debt is going to get called in. I also think something similar is going to happen to Twitch with some of the things that have been going on over there recently, but that's way outside the scope of this video. But if you know, you know. Anyway, so Texas is joining a Roblox lawsuit, and that situation is just going to keep getting messier, but it bears watching. Next is this Video Games Chronicle article from today, from Saturday, the 8th of November. Clair Obscur snubbed in Grammy video soundtrack nominations. And you read down here, it says the Grammy nominations for video game soundtracks have been announced. So a DLC for Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, Helldivers 2, Indiana Jones: A Great Circle, Star Wars Outlaws, and a game called Sword of the Sea. The biggest surprise, however, is arguably a title missing from the list. Expedition 33 has been number one on the Billboard classical charts for 10 weeks, and composer Lorien Testard recently won the WSA Game Music Award. It was submitted and it wasn't even nominated, and a lot of people have been rather upset about this. Now, I haven't played all of the 5 nominees, so I honestly can't say whether Expedition 33 is better than all of them. It is a fantastic soundtrack, I will say that. And really, realistically, this is the Grammy Awards. Who the hell cares? It doesn't matter to me. That these are not necessarily gamers or people who know shit about games. So doesn't bother me. I am wondering though where Expedition 33 is going to fall when it comes to the Game Awards, and I just have this sinking suspicion that this game is going to get snubbed I mean, you can write it down, clip it now. I could be very wrong, but I have a feeling just off base. My gut feeling is that the Game Awards are going to go with a safe choice, and they're either going to pick Donkey Kong Bonanza or Ghost of Yotai, when this or Silk Song or even Arc Raiders or Hades 2 would be much better choices. But I don't want to go too far. Anyway, so this was maybe this was just coincidence, or maybe it was the canary in the coal mine for Expedition 33. Either way, it's a great game. If you haven't played it, you really should check it out. Lastly, we'll end on this hopeful note. This DualShockers article from Friday the 7th of November. BioWare says Mass Effect is still alive despite the EA takeover. Okay, it talks about Mass Effect Day, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so while today's day of the Mass Effect Day update from Mike Gamble, the executive producer, is light on details, it does confirm one thing: the next Mass Effect game is still in development, and they say they're still working on it. There were concerns about its future after the EA's purchase by the Saudis and the investment groups that were involved. And they said the studio is already downsized to under 100 employees, and that was before questions about the studio's future came up. And they say they're still working on it, though. So I guess that's a good thing. I guess we'll see. The effect of the new owners of EA will probably be felt by this game in some way, but whether that is a cultural shift in the way characters are presented, or how LGBTQ storylines are written into it, or any of those type of issues, or whether or not you will see the new investors basically saying, we don't care, just make money, so get out there and stop loafing and make us money. Could go either way, but as somebody who is a big RPG player, I really enjoyed the first two Mass Effect games, so I'm hopeful for this. And sometimes it's just nice to have something to hang your hat on, hope-wise. All right, everyone, I think that's enough out of me for the week. If you made it to this end of this video, if you made it this far, I appreciate you for hanging in and going over all the news of the week with me. As always, I'll do the obligatory YouTube ask. And if you like this video, please leave a like on it and help the algorithm out. If you really enjoy this content, I would love to have your subscription. And if you have a comment on anything that we talked about this week, or if you feel like I missed a major story, please let me know down below so I know what to cover and what interests you all. So thank you once again. I appreciate you all tuning in. I will be back next week with another episode of Quick Bird News, and we'll talk about some more game stuff. Until then, you all go out there, live your best lives, and y'all stay gaming.